Welcome back to the Grovesters. So on this week on our channel, I'm going to pack up some orders for today and going to tell you a little story about our good find this month. So first off, I'm packing up some Roush vintage Christmas ornaments, some of my favorite things. So we were at a yard sale, and I think it's been like a month ago. I don't know. This thing sat for longer than it should have in my death pile. Anyways, I spotted this little Stars, and it had a very like 80s look to it, He-Man type of thing. And so we decided we would Google Lens it, and it was worth like $80 if it was working. We asked the people how much they wanted for it, and they wanted like $2-3. And so I was willing to take the risk because, to be honest, for the box and the parts on it, I don't. Hold on, I gotta get some big bubble wrap. So for how much we could flip it for, it was worth taking the risk that it might not work. So we bought it, and it sat in my death pile probably a month, maybe longer, hopefully not longer. Anyways, I opened it up, started looking at everything, and it's actually really cool. Turns out it doesn't work, spoiler alert, but they still sell non-working for a lot of money. So it's a cute little robot thing. It's fully complete, we just can't get it to work. So it's more like just something for shelf now. And when I pulled him out to test him, to see if he was working, we found a Hot Wheels from the 70s. And we didn't know it was a Hot Wheels from the 70s, we just knew it was an old Hot Wheels. Okay. So I handed it to Jason while I was listening to Google it, and he immediately gasped, so I knew it was good. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. So this is the Hot Wheels that we found in there. So we Googled it, and it is a 1973's Hot Wheels Rumblers Praying Menace number 6644, and this is the purple rider. There was a couple different colors. So he's missing a piece that actually sits here, and it's what makes him drive on a track. So when you looked him up, if he had that piece, they were like $390, $400 something. And so we kind of looked up the piece to go on the bottom, and that piece on the bottom is going for about $45. So I'm going to wrap him now. And so I kind of just, I don't know, I made an educated guess. I said I'm going to list him for $280 and just see what happens. And so we put him up for $280. And the first day I had somebody offer me $150. And we debated about taking it because, I mean, this was free. It was in a box of something else we were buying. But I looked at my sales information, and it said that I had 31 views in 24 hours on this, and I just kept thinking it's going to go for more. Somebody wants it. And the person that offered $150 was from another country. So a lot of times we get lower offers from other countries because the shipping's higher and they have to pay all the tariffs and all the taxes and stuff, and so they can't usually pay the same amount as somebody who's here. So I countered to them, and they declined the counter. And then it sat for another day, and somebody sent me an offer for $252, which was 10% off of what I listed it for. So we took it. So for a quick little find inside of another box, we made $252, which is not a bad deal at all. I love when I find things inside a box. All right, so this is a bundle of Wii remotes. I honestly don't know where I ended up with all of them because I do not have a black Wii. I have a couple of white Wiis, but they all have the controllers and everything, so I don't know how I ended up with this box of them, but we're going to get these shipped out. So, another story, thrifting this weekend. I decided to go to an estate sale, and I will say right now, most of the time when I go to these sales, I just try and fly under the radar. so that people don't know. I'm not trying to negotiate heavily with people on discounts. I'm not trying to give off the vibe that I'm a reseller. I'm just there. If there's something I see that I like to resell and the price is right, I'll pick it up. Anyways, so Friday, I decided to go out and about, and there was an estate sale close to me, and they said it was a picker's paradise, which generally means, in my opinion, one that's been picker's paradise. Let me know in the comments what you would think if somebody said picker's paradise. But that you would go out and you go through barns and garages and sheds and you kind of pull it out yourself, and usually the prices are pretty low. So I showed up and everything was already laid out, which is cool. They did the work. Nothing was really priced, and that actually is kind of like hard because you don't know what the prices are going to be like, what the people want. You want to make sure you're giving them a fair amount for what they're asking, but also obviously I want to leave enough room for me to have a profit. It's a business, so I need to make some money. So I was walking around, and the things that were priced were a little on the higher end, for furniture wise and stuff. And it was the first day, so that happens. That's not a big deal, but I wasn't seeing anything really that was something I wanted to pick up or something I wanted. So then I kind of just thought, well, I'll grab a couple things for myself real quick since I'm already out here, see if there's something I need or want. And so I started rummaging through the tools, and some lady asked about a pair of waders, and the guy in the garage said, oh, they're $10. So I was like, oh, that's a pretty good price for some waders. They're vintage, so you don't know what shape they're in, but that's not a bad deal. And a couple minutes later, one of the ladies from up front came and yelled at him that he should have charged $50 for the waders. And he replied back, well, you know, they're 40 years old. Why would somebody pay that much? And they kind of argued. And then I thought, okay, well, prices are going to be high here then. So I grabbed 4 tools, just some vice grips and some pliers, just for my teenagers. They're building up their tool chests. And then I grabbed a box of little vintage toys. I don't have very many little kid toys anymore, and when my nieces and nephews come over, I just wanted some toys for them to play with. So I got up to the front. The lady said she was going to do 50 cents a piece for the toys, and I said, okay, you know, it's a box of them. So she counted them out, 16, so she said $8, and I said, okay, no problem. And then she kind of looked at the tools and said $23 for everything, and I went, tools. So I've been doing this for a while, and when I pick up tools, I usually pay $1 or $2 for tools from a estate sale, yard sale, because that's why you buy them there. Otherwise, I would just buy them at the store. And so I said, well, and this is for myself. This wasn't for reselling, so I wasn't trying to like scam her. I was just trying to get more of a price that I was comfortable with. So I said, would you be willing to do an even 20? And she said, no, I can go to 22. And I kind of was thinking for a minute, so I probably made a face like, And she goes, well, or we can go up to 25 to make it even. And at that point, I was kind of like, well, we might be done. So, wasn't really thrilled with the response back of raising the price. That was a first. I've never had anybody increase the price when I tried to negotiate. So I said, I don't really need the toys that bad. I was more interested in the tools, because that was honest. The toys were more for my niece and nephew that occasionally come over, and the tools are for my kids that actually would use them. And so, can we just get the tools then? Peanuts in here. So I said, I'm just going to do the tools for now. Hold off on the toys. I might come back later. And I said, so 15 for the tools, right? Because, you know, you did it at 8 from 23, and it's 15. And she told me, well, no, I was giving you a discount on the tools because you were getting the toys. And these were old, beat up little toys, so that was confusing. And so I said, oh, and so she said it would be $20 for the tools if you want just the tools. And again, I've never had this happen in a yard sale, but it is just prices keep going up on me. Or an estate sale. And so at that point, I did not want to pay $5 for a pair of pliers and $5 for a pair of vice grips. And I was kind of over the situation. So I left, or I said, I'm going to pass, politely. And I put back the things. I said I'll put them back and put the toys and stuff back. And then I left, and I was not in a great mood. I was like, maybe Friday's not going to be a good day. It's the first day of a lot of the sales, so sometimes they don't sell as good. But then I decided to go to another estate sale, and at that estate sale, I found Madame Alexander. I found some Apartment 56, and I found My Little Ponies stable, and it was all for prices that I was far more comfortable with paying. And so I ended up loading up a whole bunch of stuff there. The people were so nice. They wanted stuff just gone. And so they were willing and doing. They gave me some discounts for taking extra stuff. They were not scared at all by having resellers there. They actually told me if I knew resellers to send them there. And so it ended up good in the end that I still went on to the next one. So thanks for listening and watching me pack this week. Leave any comments or any questions in the comment section. Thanks, guys.